My face was swollen. My lips were split. Blood streamed down my cheek, soaking into the collar of my shirt. My right arm hung useless, dislocated from the force he used to slam me into the wall. And through it all, through the fists, the shouting, the silence that followed, my sister just stood there. And when they finally turned to leave, Ethan wiped his mouth and looked down at me like I was trash. But it was Melissa's voice I'll never forget. "You should have just signed the mortgage." That was the moment I knew. My sister was gone. Not dead, but gone in a way that felt final. I lay there, shaking, until I managed to drag myself to my car and drive with one arm, blood in my eye, and my heart in pieces to my parents' house. I left a smear of red on their front door when I knocked. When my dad opened it, he gasped like he'd seen a ghost, and my mom screamed. That night changed everything. But to understand how we got there, you need to know how it started. My name is Rachel Moore. I'm 32. I live alone in a modest condo in Minneapolis and work as the operations director for a mid-sized marketing firm. I'm the kind of person who brings my own spreadsheet to tax appointments, uses a password manager, and knows how much interest I'm earning on my savings account. Not because I'm uptight, because I know what it's like to feel like everything could slip away. Our family grew up in St. Paul. My dad was a high school econ teacher. My mom worked nights as a nurse. We didn't have much, but we had enough, and we had each other. Melissa is 5 years older than me. She was my first best friend, my protector. She once chased a boy 2 grades above me for calling me brace face. She helped me with homework, bought me ice cream with her babysitting money, gave me her lucky bracelet the day I interviewed for college scholarships. She was magnetic, always the one who walked into a room and made it warmer. I admired her so much. When she met Ethan, it was like something in her lit up. He was charming, confident, a little too slick for my taste, but she adored him. I stood by her side on her wedding day, in a dress she picked out just for me. I gave a toast. I said he was lucky to have her. For a while, they seemed happy. Sunday dinners with my parents were filled with laughter. We celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, holidays together. But then things started to shift, subtle at first. Melissa, my thrift store, coupon queen sister, started dropping the names of luxury brands. She teased me for driving my decade-old Corolla. Ethan started asking questions. How much I made, what my mortgage rate was, how much I'd saved. At first, I thought he was just curious, but something about the way he watched me, it didn't feel like family. It felt like assessment. I tried to brush it off. I wanted to believe we were still close, that she still saw me as her little sister, not just a tool. Then, one Tuesday evening, Melissa called, excited. "Come over for dinner," she said. "We have amazing news." I thought maybe they were pregnant. I brought a bottle of wine and showed up in jeans and a sweater. Their apartment was spotless, candles lit, a whole spread on the table, with homemade tiramisu, my favorite. Ethan poured my wine. Melissa beamed. Then they dropped it. They'd found their dream house. 4 bedrooms, gourmet kitchen, wraparound porch. The pictures looked straight out of a magazine. I blinked. "You're buying this." Ethan smiled. "We put in an offer. Got accepted this morning." I was stunned. I knew their jobs. Melissa worked part-time at a boutique. Ethan was in sales commission-based and had switched companies twice in 3 years. But I smiled. Wow, that's a big step. Then Melissa reached across the table and took my hand. "That's why we need to ask you something." My stomach tightened. Ethan leaned forward. "The bank needs a little extra security. Nothing huge, just a cosigner on the mortgage. A guarantor. Your credit's great. You've got the income. You'd never actually have to pay anything, it's just a formality." They said it so casually, like asking me to water their plants. But this wasn't about plants. This was a legally binding financial obligation. If they missed payments, it would hit my credit. If they defaulted, I'd be on the hook. They were asking me to risk everything I'd worked for. I swallowed. I'll need time to think. Maybe review what it would mean. It's a big decision. Ethan's smile tightened. Sure. Just let us know by next week. We need to keep our rate locked in. That night, I barely slept. I couldn't shake the way Ethan looked at me like the deal was already closed. And in that moment, I didn't know it yet, but I had just said the most dangerous word I could. Maybe, after that dinner, the air around us shifted. I felt it even in the silence of my apartment. Something heavy had been placed on the table between us, unspoken, but very real. I spent the next day doing what I always do when something feels off. I researched. What does being a mortgage guarantor actually mean? What happens if the borrower defaults? Can it hurt your credit? Can you lose your home? Answer after answer made my chest tighten. It wasn't just a formality. It was a financial landmine. If they fell behind, the bank wouldn't come for them first. It would come for me, my credit, my savings, even my condo, if things spiraled far enough. I booked an appointment with my financial advisor, Linda. She didn't mince words. Rachel, I know this is your sister, but from what you've told me about their financial situation, this would be a huge risk. I wouldn't recommend it. I already knew that, but hearing it out loud gave me clarity. So I called Melissa and invited her to coffee. Just us. No Ethan. We met at our usual spot, the cafe we'd been going to since I was in college. Same lattes, same window seat. She smiled when she saw me. For a moment, I saw the old Melissa, the one who used to braid my hair before big interviews, who once stood in the rain outside my dorm when I had the flu, holding soup in both hands. I've been looking into the guarantor thing, I said gently. It's more serious than I realized. And honestly, I'm not comfortable taking on that level of risk. Her smile faded. She stirred her drink, then looked up at me. Rachel, you're overthinking. Ethan's getting a promotion. This house means everything to us. We want to start a family. Don't you trust me? I do, I said carefully. But this isn't about trust. It's about the numbers. What if that promotion doesn't come through? Or one of you gets sick? What's the backup plan? She sighed. You're always planning for the worst. Can't you just believe in us? I want to, but believing doesn't protect my home if things go wrong. She didn't argue, just nodded and said she'd talk to Ethan. We left it there. I thought we were okay. That night, I got a text from Ethan. Melissa told me about your concerns. Thought you'd support your sister's happiness. Guess blood isn't thicker than water after all. It was subtle, passive-aggressive, but the message was clear. The next Sunday, we had dinner at my parents' house. The tension walked in before they did. Ethan barely looked at me. Melissa tried to act normal, but her eyes kept flicking between us. Over dessert, I tried to revisit the conversation. I've been thinking, I said, keeping my tone calm. What if you guys waited a bit? Maybe found a smaller home that doesn't need a guarantor. Ethan's fork hit the plate a little too hard. We've done the math. We can afford this house. We just need your signature to satisfy the bank's red tape. Then maybe show me the math, I offered, so I can feel confident too. His jaw tensed. So now we have to prove ourselves to you. That's not what I said. Melissa looked between us, frozen. My dad cleared his throat. Maybe everyone needs time to think. Financial decisions shouldn't be rushed. There's no time, Ethan snapped. The market's competitive. We'll lose the house. That was the first time I saw the crack. Not in Ethan, but in Melissa. Her eyes lowered, her smile forced. And when she hugged me goodbye, she whispered, I thought I could count on you. It hurt more than I expected. That night, I called Marcus, my boyfriend. He's a police officer, solid, even-tempered, the kind of man who listens more than he talks. I told him everything. He didn't say I told you so. He just listened. Then he said, "Rachel, this is starting to feel like coercion. Financial manipulation is still manipulation. Be careful." He was right, but I still held on to hope. Maybe this was just pressure. Maybe Melissa would come around. Days passed. I sent her a few texts. She replied with one-word answers. The silence stretched. Then, on a Tuesday morning, she called. Her voice was tight. "The bank needs an answer by Friday." "I've thought about it," I said gently, "and I can't do it. I'm sorry, but I can't risk everything I've built." She was quiet for a second. Then her tone shifted. "This is about loyalty. Remember when I gave you $300 in college for your car repair? I didn't ask questions. This isn't the same." "It is to me," she snapped. "Mom and Dad are disappointed too." I blinked. "They said that to you." "They didn't have to." "Melissa," I said, "are you hearing yourself?" "Ethan says Marcus is turning you against us. He's always been jealous." My heart sank. The conversation spiraled until she ended it in tears, saying I was selfish. I called my parents immediately. They were shocked. They hadn't said anything of the sort. In fact, they'd told Melissa to respect my decision. But the worst was still coming. 2 days later, I was in the middle of interviewing a new assistant at work when the receptionist called. "You have visitors." I walked into the lobby and froze. Ethan and Melissa were standing there, dressed like they'd come from a business meeting. He held a folder in one hand. "We need to talk," he said. "Not here." I thought, not like this. But I led them into an empty conference room. "We brought the paperwork," Ethan said, placing the folder on the table. "All you need to do is sign, and this'll be done." "I've already said no." He leaned forward. "Do you even understand what this house means to us, to your sister?" "I understand," I said. "But there are other houses, other ways." "We don't want other ways," he snapped. Melissa finally spoke. "If you can't do this one thing for me, Rachel, maybe we need to rethink our relationship." I looked at her. "This isn't about not helping. It's about protecting myself." Ethan scoffed. "Always looking out for yourself, huh?" When they left, I sat alone in that room, shaking. I didn't know it yet, but they weren't done with me. After they left my office that day, I just sat there. The folder was still on the table, unopened. I didn't need to look inside. I already knew what was in it, pages of legal commitments wrapped in emotional blackmail. It took me nearly 10 minutes to stop shaking. I called Marcus during my lunch break, told him everything how they showed up, cornered me, made demands like I was the one ruining their future. He didn't raise his voice. He just said, "Rachel, this isn't about the house anymore. They're escalating. They're trying to pressure you into something that could destroy you." I knew he was right, but I still clung to the hope that Melissa would come to her senses. That weekend, my parents invited all of us over for dinner. They were trying to bring things back to normal, thinking a meal might ease the tension. It didn't. From the moment Melissa and Ethan walked in, the mood was tense. My mom tried to carry the conversation asking about work, offering dessert early, but everyone felt it. The elephant in the room wasn't just present, it was sitting at the table. Then Melissa brought it up. "We might lose the house," she said loudly, her fork clinking against her plate, "because some people don't understand family commitment." My dad looked up. "Melissa, we agreed not to talk about this tonight." "Why not?" "It's all that matters right now." Her voice cracked. "Rachel's being selfish, and everyone's pretending it's okay." My mom stepped in gently. "Your sister has the right to make decisions about her finances. That doesn't mean she doesn't love you." "So you're taking her side now?" Melissa's tone turned bitter. "There are no sides," my dad said, steady, Just different views on a very serious decision. Ethan put his arm around her. Come on. It's clear where everyone stands. Rachel has her perfect little condo and her perfect job, and we're the villains for dreaming big. They left early. My mom squeezed my hand as the door closed. This isn't about the house, she whispered. Something's going on with them. Something deeper. She was right. 3 days later, I got a call from my bank. Someone had tried to access my financial records. Twice. Then my credit card company reached out. There had been an attempt to open a line of credit in my name. I froze. Could Ethan be trying to dig into my finances? Or worse, was he trying to gather leverage? I called Marcus. He didn't even hesitate. You need to lock everything down. Freeze your credit. Change your passwords. Enable two-factor authentication. And start documenting everything. He sounded more serious than ever. This isn't just family drama anymore. Rachel, this is crossing into dangerous territory. I followed his advice. I also scheduled another appointment with Linda, my financial advisor. I needed facts-hard data to stay grounded. When I walked into her office, she already looked concerned. I did some digging, she said, pulling up a file. With your permission, I ran a deeper background check on Ethan. There's a lot you didn't know. She laid it out: credit cards maxed out, personal loans and collections, a previous mortgage default, and ongoing debt disputes dating back years. None of it had been disclosed. Not to the bank, and probably not to Melissa either. My stomach dropped. They weren't just asking you to take a risk, Linda said quietly. They were asking you to walk into a disaster. I left that meeting with my head spinning. Either Melissa was being lied to, or she knew everything and helped cover it up. Either way, I had my answer. I couldn't help them. But I wasn't going to leave them empty-handed. That wasn't who I was. That night, I started building an information packet. I researched first-time homebuyer programs, pulled listings for more affordable houses, and compiled contact info for mortgage brokers who specialized in tough credit cases. I even color-coded it. I wasn't just saying no. I was offering them a better path. I just hoped they'd see it that way. 2 nights later, I was home alone. Marcus was on night shift. I had just ordered dinner and was finishing up the last tabs in the folder when someone pounded on my door. Not knocked, pounded. Hard, fast, repeated. I jumped to my feet, heart racing. I peeked through the peephole. Ethan. Red-faced, sweating, eyes wild. Melissa was behind him, arms crossed, face unreadable. Rachel, he shouted. Open the door, we know you're in there. I panicked. My phone was in my hand. I texted Marcus, one word: Greg's here. Angry. I didn't open the door. I just shouted back, now's not a good time. Please go home. We can talk later. But Ethan's voice was rising. There is no later. We lost the house. Rachel, it's gone because of you. And before I could respond, I heard the metallic snap. The security chain broke. The door flew open. He was inside. Melissa stepped in behind him. And just like that, I wasn't safe anymore. The chain snapped like it was nothing. Ethan barged in, chest heaving, eyes wild. Melissa followed close behind, silent, her arms still crossed tightly over her chest. I backed up instinctively, my voice trembling. You need to leave, Ethan, right now. He didn't slow down. He didn't even hesitate. You cost us everything. My hand moved toward my phone, still on the table, but he got there first. He grabbed it and hurled it across the room. It hit the wall with a sickening crack, the screen shattering as it fell. There's nothing to talk about tonight, I said, trying to stay calm. I actually have something for you, information. Real options. Better ones. I gestured toward the folder I had spent hours preparing. It sat neatly on the dining table, color-coded tabs and all. Ethan turned to it, his eyes scanning the cover. He flipped it open, listings for affordable homes, mortgage advice, community programs, my effort, laid out in full. This, he hissed, is what you think we're worth. He flung the folder across the room. Pages flew like confetti, scattering across the floor. You think we want your pity? Your hand-me-down options. Melissa still hadn't said a word. I didn't do this out of pity, I said, my voice shaking. I did it because I still care, because I thought maybe if I showed you another path, we wouldn't end up here. He stepped closer. You don't get it, do you? His breath smelled like alcohol. We didn't just lose a house. We lost our future, and it's your fault. There will be other houses, I said, ones you can actually afford. You think you know everything, about our money, about Melissa, about me. I met his eyes. I know about the credit cards, the defaulted mortgage, the collections. He froze. You what? I had every right to look. You asked me to put my life on the line. I had to know what I was signing up for. He stared at me, jaw clenched. Then something shifted in his face. Rage. Did she know Ethan? I asked, turning toward my sister, Melissa. Did you know about the debt, the default? Melissa opened her mouth, but didn't speak. I took a step toward her. Did you know what he was hiding when you asked me to co-sign? Ethan shoved himself between us. Don't talk to her. This is between all of us, Ethan. No, he growled. This is between you and me. He shoved me, hard. My back hit the wall with a thud. I winced. Ethan, stop. This is assault. He didn't stop. He shoved me again, harder. My shoulder slammed into the corner of the wall, and something snapped. Pain shot through my body like fire. I screamed. Melissa gasped, but still didn't move. I dropped to my knees, cradling my shoulder. Ethan hovered over me, his fists clenched. You think you're better than us, don't you? He spat. With your neat little condo and your steady job and your spreadsheets. I could barely breathe. He grabbed my wrist. I cried out. You're hurting me. Ethan, Melissa shouted finally. Stop! But she didn't stop him. She didn't come between us. She didn't touch him. She just watched. Then his fist came down. The pain exploded in my face, sharp, blinding. My lips split, blood filling my mouth. He hit me again. This time I fell fully, landing hard on the floor. My right arm twisted beneath me, useless. The world blurred. My vision pulsed with red. Through it all, I heard my sister say 3 words. Let's go, Ethan. That was it. No stop. No I'm calling for help. No attempt to check if I could still breathe. Just, let's go. And as he stepped back from me, breath ragged, Melissa stood by the door and waited. I reached for her. I couldn't even lift my arm. I begged. Please. She didn't answer. Ethan looked back at me with pure disgust. You brought this on yourself. They walked out. Just like that. Gone. I lay on the floor, bleeding, shaking, stunned. The taste of metal filled my mouth. My shoulder throbbed with every heartbeat. My phone was shattered. My neighbors never heard a thing. I don't remember how long I stayed there, but eventually the pain forced me into motion. I dragged myself to the wall and used it to sit up. My blouse was soaked in blood. My face throbbed. My vision blurred every few seconds, but I had to move. I found my keys. I got to my car. I drove with one arm, squinting through one eye 15 miles to my parents' house. Every bump in the road was torture. When I pulled into the driveway, I couldn't even ring the bell. I knocked once, then collapsed against the door. It swung open. My dad's face went pale. My mom screamed. Rachel. I tried to speak. I got out 2 words. Ethan, Melissa. Then everything went dark. I came to on the floor of my parents' foyer. The smell of antiseptic was sharp. Someone had already brought out the first aid kit. My mom was pressing a towel to my face, whispering my name over and over. My dad sat beside me, one arm bracing my back, the other holding my good hand. "He attacked me," I whispered. "Ethan." And Melissa watched. My dad's jaw locked. My mom gasped again, then pulled out her phone with shaking fingers and called 911. "My daughter's been assaulted. She's bleeding. I think her shoulder's dislocated. Please hurry." I barely registered the sirens when they arrived. The pain drowned everything else out. My body was a map of bruises and searing nerves. A paramedic crouched beside me, shining a light in my eyes. Another gently examined my swollen face and shoulder. "Possible concussion, dislocated shoulder, facial trauma," I heard one of them say. Then a voice I recognized, firm but shaken. "Rachel, I'm here." It was Marcus. He wasn't in uniform, but his badge was clipped to his jeans. His face went pale when he saw me. "I got your message," he said, taking my hand gently. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there." "You're here now," I managed. The officers who arrived began taking statements. One knelt beside me with a notebook. "Ma'am, do you know who did this to you?" "Yes," I rasped. "Ethan Walsh, my brother-in-law." The officer's eyes hardened. "Where did it happen?" "My apartment. About an hour ago." He stood and spoke into his radio. Confirmed ID. Aggravated assault. Breaking and entering. Suspect is Ethan Walsh. He may be accompanied by Melissa Walsh. Attempting to locate. I was loaded into the ambulance. Marcus rode with me, holding my hand the entire time. The pain meds dulled the edges, but the memory stayed sharp. The betrayal, the blows, Melissa's silence. At the hospital, I was poked, prodded, scanned, and stitched. The dislocated shoulder was reset. X-rays revealed a fractured cheekbone and orbital socket. A surgeon talked to me about possible long-term damage to my right eye. A plastic surgeon was called in for the lacerations on my face. Sometime after midnight, I was moved to a private room. Marcus never left my side. "You're not alone," he said, "and you don't have to carry this by yourself." The next morning, 2 detectives arrived. One of them, Sarah Martinez, introduced herself as part of the domestic violence unit. Her voice was calm but firm. "We know this isn't your typical domestic, but what happened to you falls under our jurisdiction, and we're taking it seriously." I gave my formal statement. I described the pounding on the door, the broken chain, the folder, the insults, the attack, Melissa's words. "She just stood there," I said, "and when I was bleeding on the floor, she said I should have signed the mortgage." The detective paused. Her pen froze for a second, then kept moving. "We'll find them," she promised. "They can't hide." My parents visited later that day. My mom's eyes brimmed with tears the moment she saw me. "We should have seen it," she whispered. "We should have known something was wrong." "This isn't your fault," I told her. But I wasn't sure I believed it myself. How had all of us missed it? 2 days later, police located Ethan and Melissa in a motel 30 miles outside the city. They were arrested without incident. Ethan was charged with aggravated assault, breaking and entering, and attempted coercion. The DA informed me they intended to pursue the case aggressively. Melissa wasn't charged immediately, but there were discussions about her role, her silence, her complicity. I filed for a restraining order against both of them. The court approved it that same week. My colleagues were incredibly supportive. My boss insisted I work remotely. Coworkers dropped off meals, sent care packages, and left cards filled with words that made me cry. But it was Marcus who carried me through. He cooked, cleaned, helped me bathe, even read to me when I couldn't sleep. He was steady and gentle in a way I didn't know I needed. "You're not broken," He told me one night, "You're hurt, but you'll heal." The preliminary hearing came 2 weeks later. I wore sunglasses and a scarf to hide the bruises. My parents and Marcus flanked me on either side. Ethan sat at the defense table in a gray suit, hands clasped, jaw tight. Melissa sat behind him, not looking at me once. The charges were read aloud. Ethan pled not guilty. The judge set bail at $100,000 with strict conditions, GPS monitoring, and a no-contact order. Ethan's attorney tried to argue he wasn't a threat. The judge looked at the police report, the medical photos, the hallway security footage showing him breaking in. "Bail stands," she said coldly. As Ethan was escorted out of the courtroom, Melissa turned and met my eyes. There was no remorse, just a cold, quiet hatred. To her, I wasn't the victim. I was the traitor. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. My dad blocked their cameras as Marcus helped me into the car. That night, alone in my room, I looked in the mirror. My face was healing, but it didn't look like mine yet. Still beneath the swelling, under the stitches, I saw something else. Resolve. He broke the chain, but he didn't break me. In the weeks after the preliminary hearing, my body slowly began to heal. The stitches came out. The bruises faded to yellow, then pale. My shoulder regained movement, though it ached when the weather changed. But the emotional wounds didn't fade as easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. Ethan's face twisted in rage. Melissa's arms crossed, mouth silent, eyes blank. Her voice still echoed in my head. "You should have just signed the mortgage." My therapist, a gentle woman named Lisa, helped me work through the trauma, layer by layer. "You didn't just survive an assault," she told me. "You were betrayed by someone you trusted. That's a deeper wound." And it was because even as Ethan's trial approached, it wasn't him I kept dreaming about. It was her. Melissa hadn't just stood by. She'd followed him out. She'd fled with him. She'd left me bleeding. Still, part of me hoped. Maybe she'd come around. Maybe she'd apologize. That hope died when my mom answered the phone one night. "Rachel," she said softly, holding out the receiver. "It's her. I put it on speaker." Melissa's voice came through, tight and brittle. "This has gone too far. You need to drop the charges." Silence. "You're destroying our family over one mistake," she added. "Greg Ethan, he lost his job. We lost our apartment. Is that enough for you?" I opened my mouth, but my dad beat me to it. "Are you serious?" His voice was calm, but sharp. "You watched your sister nearly die, and now you want her to feel guilty." Melissa's tone changed, more desperate now. "He needs counseling, not prison." Rachel's exaggerating. "This isn't justice. It's revenge." I stepped in. "You think I wanted this? You think I chose this?" There was a long pause. Then Melissa said, "I see whose side you're all on." And the line went dead. That was the last time she spoke to us before the trial. The courtroom was packed on the first day. Reporters filled the back row. The case had drawn local attention, a brutal family assault. A financial dispute turned violent. They called it the mortgage attack in headlines. I testified on the second day. I stood at the front of the courtroom, one hand steady on the podium, and told my story. I didn't dramatize. I didn't hold back. I described the pounding on my door, the broken chain, the folder I had prepared, Ethan's words, his fists, Melissa's silence. And I ended with the last thing she said to me. "You should have just signed the mortgage." The courtroom was silent. Even the court reporter paused, her fingers hovering. When I stepped down, I caught Ethan's eyes for the first time. There was no remorse, just a quiet, burning hatred. His defense attorney tried everything, claimed Ethan had been under financial stress, that it was a moment of lost control, that Melissa had tried to stop him. But the prosecution had security footage from the hallway outside my apartment. It showed Ethan forcing the door, Melissa following him in, neither looking back. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Assault, breaking and entering, attempted coercion, aggravated battery. At the sentencing hearing, the judge didn't hold back. Mr. Walsh, you used physical violence to intimidate and silence someone who simply exercised her legal right to say no. You manipulated family ties, weaponized guilt, and left lasting physical and emotional scars. This court sees through your excuses. He was sentenced to 8 years in state prison. As they led him away in handcuffs, Melissa cried out from the gallery, not for me, but for him. And that told me everything I needed to know. In her eyes, I was the villain, not the man who broke my face, not the man who nearly crushed my shoulder, not the man who shattered our family. Me. For protecting myself. The days after the sentencing were oddly quiet. There was no closure. Not really. Just the absence of new wounds. The beginning of something that looked like healing. I moved into a new apartment one with 24-hour security, no public floor access, and cameras in every hallway. My parents helped me paint the walls. Marcus installed deadbolts himself. I took a deep breath in that new space. I was safe. The community rallied around me more than I expected. A local women's shelter invited me to speak. I talked about financial boundaries, about trauma, about family and how the two can collide in painful, unexpected ways. Marcus came to every session, sat quietly in the back, watched me as I stood tall and used my voice. "You've turned pain into power," he said after one of them. One day, after a workshop, he waited until everyone had cleared out. Then he reached into his pocket. "I was going to plan something big, but after watching you tonight, I just couldn't wait." He opened a small velvet box. Simple, classic, 1 diamond. "I love you, Rachel Moore, and I want to build something honest with you. No manipulation, no pressure, just us. Will you marry me?" I didn't answer right away. I smiled. I placed my hand over his. And I said, "Let me think about it." Not because I doubted him, but because this time, I wanted my yes to come from clarity, from strength, from choice, not survival. It took months for my body to fully heal. The scars on my face and shoulders slowly faded, but I could still see them in certain lights. Sometimes I touched them without thinking, reminders of everything I had survived. The deeper scars, the ones inside, took longer. But with every therapy session, every workshop, every quiet night in my new apartment, I felt stronger, safer, more myself. I kept Marcus's ring for 2 weeks before I gave him my answer. Not because I doubted his love, but because I wanted to say yes for the right reasons. I wanted my next chapter to be about hope, not escape. When I finally told him yes, it was with a steady heart. His hug was gentle, and I felt the future opening up, a future built on honesty, respect, and choice. Melissa never came to the wedding. We exchanged a few letters, each one filled with apology, confusion, and regret. She was on her own journey, finally in therapy, trying to understand how she'd lost herself. I wanted to forgive her, but I needed time. Maybe, one day, we'd find each other again. My parents healed too. We learned that family isn't defined by blood alone. It's shaped by who stands with you in the dark, who reaches for you when you're falling, who loves you enough to let you walk away, if that's what you need to heal. I shared my story at women's shelters, community centers, and local colleges. Each time, I told them what I'd learned. You have the right to say no. You have the right to protect yourself, even from people you love. And you have the right to define your own family. built on trust, not obligation. If you're listening, and you feel alone, know this. You're stronger than you think. The worst day isn't the end of your story. Thank you for letting me share mine. If you found this story helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, real family is the one that helps you heal, not the one that asks you to bleed.